The morning mist clung to the fields of Normandy, turning the countryside into a surreal mix of gray and green. Michael Whitty, a young tank driver barely out of his teens, climbed into the driver's seat of his M4 Sherman, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Around him, his crew moved with tense precision, checking weapons, scanning the horizon. The bridge ahead was their objective, a vital crossing that could determine the success of the Allied advance. Every rustle in the hedgerows, every distant rumble made Whitty's heart race. Time was a predator, stalking them with a cruel patience, and the enemy was closing in fast. Inside the Sherman, the air was thick with anticipation. "Eyes open, people," Whitty barked, trying to steady his own nerves. Private Jameson, the gunner, adjusted his sights, knuckles white on the controls. Radio chatter crackled with fragmented warnings, enemy infantry moving through the fields, armored vehicles creeping along the lanes. Whitty's mind raced, calculating every risk. This was no routine patrol. It was a battle for survival, a test of courage under fire. The Sherman rumbled beneath him, a steady mechanical heartbeat against the chaos surrounding them. A German panzer suddenly crested the hill, turrets swinging toward the bridge. "Target the lead tank," Whitty shouted. Jameson's hands flew over the controls, lining up the Sherman's 75mm gun. The shot thundered across the landscape, hitting the panzer squarely. It shuddered violently, then went silent. But more followed. Enemy rifle fire erupted from the hedgerows, tanks and half-tracks rolling forward with relentless determination. Whitty adjusted the Sherman's position, using the terrain for cover, dodging shells, returning fire. Each move was a gamble, a high-stakes chess game where a single misstep could mean death. Hours stretched into an endless battle. Whitty shouted orders, navigated the terrain, and coordinated with his crew, who moved with uncanny synchronicity. Explosions shook the bridge, dust and smoke filling the air, obscuring the view, but also hiding movements. Whitty's focus never wavered. He felt the weight of responsibility for the bridge, the nearby reinforcements, the lives of his men. "Hold the line," he cried, voice raw with effort. The crew obeyed, moving as one, a tiny bastion of resistance against the advancing German forces. Every tank, every rifle, every shell mattered in the struggle. A German panzer suddenly crested the hill, turrets swinging toward the bridge. "Target the lead tank," Whitty shouted. Jameson's hands flew over the controls, lining up the Sherman's 75mm gun. The shot thundered across the landscape, hitting the panzer squarely. It shuddered violently, then went silent. But more followed. Enemy rifle fire erupted from the hedgerows, tanks and half-tracks rolling forward with relentless determination. Whitty adjusted the Sherman's position, using the terrain for cover, dodging shells, returning fire. Each move was a gamble, a high-stakes chess game where a single misstep could mean death. Hours stretched into an endless battle. Whitty shouted orders, navigated the terrain, and coordinated with his crew, who moved with uncanny synchronicity. Explosions shook the bridge, dust and smoke filling the air, obscuring the view, but also hiding movements. Whitty's focus never wavered. He felt the weight of responsibility for the bridge, the nearby reinforcements, the lives of his men. "Hold the line," he cried, voice raw with effort. The crew obeyed, moving as one, a tiny bastion of resistance against the advancing German forces. Every tank, every rifle, every shell mattered in the struggle. "Keep moving. Don't give them an inch," he yelled. The Sherman groaned as it shifted position, the track crunching over rubble. Jameson fired relentlessly, each shot finding its mark. Corporal Daniels, in the loader position, passed shells swiftly, sweat dripping down his brow. The tank shook under every explosion, yet remained a fortress. The bridge ahead seemed impossibly distant, yet crucial, a lifeline for the advancing Allied forces. Whitty felt exhaustion creeping in, muscles screaming, but his resolve hardened. They could not fail. Not now, not after everything. The Germans regrouped, trying to coordinate another armored thrust. Whitty spotted a weak point in their formation. "Left flank, move up, cover me," he commanded. The Sherman lurched forward, taking a narrow path between destroyed vehicles. He fired at a Panzer attempting to cross a small rise. It erupted in flames, metal twisting, smoke filling the air. Enemy soldiers scattered, retreating behind hedgerows. The crew exchanged tense glances, acknowledging each other silently. They were a small team, yet their actions had halted a superior force, turning the tide at that one critical bridge. The afternoon sun burned low in the sky, casting long shadows over the shattered fields of Normandy. WWII's Sherman had become a moving fortress, steel and fire against the relentless German advance. Smoke curled from every corner of the battlefield, mixing with the acrid smell of gunpowder. "Keep your eyes sharp," WWII shouted, scanning the horizon. Through the haze, he spotted enemy infantry attempting to rush the bridge under cover of smoke. He adjusted the Sherman's gun, lining up the perfect shot, heart hammering. The first volley tore through the advancing soldiers, forcing them to take cover. But the Germans were relentless, and WWII knew the fight was far from over. Each minute stretched into an eternity. The bridge trembled under artillery fire, every explosion sending shrapnel bouncing across the landscape. WWII's hands were blistered, fingers numb from gripping the controls, but he refused to slow. "We've got to hold them here," he barked. Jameson fired again, hitting another armored vehicle trying to advance. Daniels and the rest of the crew worked like clockwork, loading shells, coordinating with WWII, covering every angle. Every movement had to be precise. A single miscalculation could cost them everything. Sweat ran down WWII's brow, mixing with the grime of battle, but his eyes stayed sharp, unwavering. Suddenly, a German Tiger tank appeared on the rise, its massive form looming over the battlefield. WWII cursed under his breath. The Sherman shuddered as he maneuvered into position, trying to take advantage of the terrain. "Jameson, target the Tiger, now!" The gunner reacted instantly, lining up the shot. The 75mm shell slammed into the Tiger's armor, bouncing off harmlessly. WWII gritted his teeth, realizing the limits of their weaponry against this behemoth. But retreat was not an option. The bridge had to be defended. Thinking quickly, WWII aimed for the soft spots, focusing on the tracks. The shot hit, and the Tiger lurched, immobilized. WWII's crew let out a brief cheer, but it was cut short by the renewed roar of enemy engines. Smoke and debris filled the air as the Germans launched another assault, this time combining infantry, tanks, and artillery. WWII's mind raced, calculating angles, distances, and timing. "Hold your ground! We are the line!" he shouted. The Sherman shifted, dodging shells and gunfire with precision. Each shot fired was a heartbeat in the rhythm of survival. Jameson's eyes were sharp, every movement fluid and exact. Daniels handed shells with speed born of desperation. The crew moved as one, a small but formidable team, their courage and skill holding back a superior force. The bridge, their lifeline, remained intact. By late evening, the battle had reached a fever pitch. Enemy tanks flanked the Sherman, trying to cut off the crew from the bridge. WWII saw the movement and countered with quick maneuvers, using the terrain as a shield. "Left flank, now!" he yelled, and Jameson pivoted, blasting enemy infantry hiding behind a crumbling wall. Smoke rose from the Sherman's engine, but it refused to die. The crew's coordination, quick thinking, and relentless courage created a wall of steel and fire. The bridge, the crucial point of defense, had survived dozens of enemy assaults, and WWII's heart surged with grim determination. Every second was a test of endurance, nerves stretched to the breaking point. The German assault intensified, tanks and soldiers pressing forward in waves. WWII's mind worked in overdrive, calculating every angle, every possible move. "Cover me," he shouted, maneuvering the Sherman into a narrow lane, picking off advancing infantry with deadly accuracy. Explosions rocked the vehicle, yet it remained intact, a fortress of courage and metal. The bridge ahead, the goal of countless strategic maneuvers, still stood. WWII knew that holding it wasn't just about survival. It was about victory for the Allies in Normandy. Night fell, and the battlefield grew darker. The chaos, now illuminated by flashes of gunfire and burning vehicles. Whitty's voice, raw and commanding, cut through the cacophony. "We're not done yet. Stay sharp." Each member of the crew responded, moving as one unit. Shells ricocheted, metal groaned under the stress of combat, and smoke filled every corner of the Sherman. But the crew held their ground, refusing to yield. The bridge, a crucial artery for the Allied advance, remained secure. Whitty allowed himself a brief, grim smile. Through sheer determination, skill, and bravery, they had held the line against overwhelming odds. The sounds of battle shifted as darkness settled over Normandy. The distant rumble of engines became more pronounced, and Whitty's eyes darted across the field. Enemy tanks and infantry were regrouping, planning another push. "Jameson, check the right flank. Daniels, be ready with the next round," Whitty barked, adrenaline surging through his veins. Every second mattered. The Sherman lurched forward, tracks crunching over rubble and debris. The crew worked like a well-oiled machine, every movement coordinated, every command precise. Outside, the night seemed to vibrate with the chaos of war, yet inside the Sherman, a fierce determination burned. Night fell, and the battlefield grew darker, the chaos now illuminated by flashes of gunfire and burning vehicles. Whitty's voice, raw and commanding, cut through the cacophony. "We're not done yet. Stay sharp." Each member of the crew responded, moving as one unit. Shells ricocheted, metal groaned under the stress of combat, and smoke filled every corner of the Sherman. But the crew held their ground, refusing to yield. The bridge, a crucial artery for the Allied advance, remained secure. Whitty allowed himself a brief, grim smile. Through sheer determination, skill, and bravery, they had held the line against overwhelming odds. The sounds of battle shifted as darkness settled over Normandy. The distant rumble of engines became more pronounced, and Whitty's eyes darted across the field. Enemy tanks and infantry were regrouping, planning another push. "Jameson, check the right flank. Daniels, be ready with the next round," Whitty barked, adrenaline surging through his veins. Every second mattered. The Sherman lurched forward, tracks crunching over rubble and debris. The crew worked like a well-oiled machine, every movement coordinated, every command precise. Outside, the night seemed to vibrate with the chaos of war, yet inside the Sherman, a fierce determination burned. The Germans escalated their assault, tanks and infantry advancing in a coordinated push. Whitty scanned the battlefield, spotting a weakness in their formation. "Left side, move up! Fire as soon as they expose themselves!" he shouted. The Sherman lurched forward, moving between wreckage and obstacles. Jameson pivoted the gun, taking out a cluster of infantry before they could reach cover. Smoke billowed from the engine, and flames licked the surrounding fields. The bridge, still intact, became a symbol of their resilience. Whitty felt a surge of pride mixed with exhaustion. The crew had held the line far longer than anyone expected. Suddenly, a Tiger tank loomed in the distance, its massive silhouette terrifying against the dim light. Whitty's chest tightened. "We can't take that head on," he muttered. He scanned for weak spots and adjusted the Sherman's position, using hedgerows and rubble for cover. "Jameson, aim for the tracks! Disable it!" The gunner fired, the shell impacting perfectly. The Tiger lurched, immobilized, but still dangerous. Whitty knew that a single mistake could mean destruction. Sweat ran down his face, mixing with soot, yet his hands remained steady on the controls. The crew braced themselves, every nerve alert, hearts pounding in synchrony with the battle around them. As the night deepened, enemy movements became more desperate. Whitty's Sherman was a lone sentinel, holding back waves of advancing forces. "Keep firing! Don't let him take the bridge!" he shouted. The crew responded with unwavering determination, covering each other, coordinating every move. Explosions rocked the vehicle, but the Sherman endured. Outside, the sounds of combat painted a nightmarish symphony, shouts, gunfire, and the shriek of metal. Inside, the crew fought as one entity, a unit bound by trust, skill, and sheer will. Each passing minute was a testament to their courage and resilience. The German assault intensified, a wave of steel and fire pressing relentlessly against the Sherman. Whitty's mind raced, calculating every angle, anticipating every move. "Hold steady! Aim true!" he barked, voice cracking with urgency. Jameson pivoted the gun with deadly precision, picking off advancing infantry before they could reach cover. Daniels loaded shells with blistered hands, sweat and grime coating his face. The Sherman groaned under the strain of continuous fire, yet it refused to falter. Outside, explosions tore through the landscape, metal twisted and flamed. But the bridge, the lifeline of the Allied advance, remained intact, a testament to their courage. Then, a desperate flanking maneuver by the Germans brought two panzers charging along a narrow lane. Whitty cursed under his breath, calculating how to meet them head-on. "Daniels, pass me the next round, now. Jameson, focus on the lead tank." The Sherman lurched into position, tracks grinding over debris, its cannon aimed with unerring accuracy. The first shell struck the lead panzer, sending it skidding sideways into a ditch. The second followed immediately, hitting the rear vehicle. Flames and smoke erupted, illuminating the night. The crew exchanged tense glances. Victory seemed possible, but they knew the danger was far from over. The Germans, now frustrated and desperate, unleashed infantry with grenades and machine guns from the hedgerows. Whitty barked orders, guiding the Sherman like a conductor leading a symphony of destruction. "Cover the flanks, don't let them near the bridge." Every shot fired was precise, every maneuver calculated. The Sherman shuddered under incoming fire, but the crew's coordination and bravery held firm. Whitty felt exhaustion gnawing at him, yet adrenaline surged with every moment of triumph. They had become more than a crew. They were a single entity, steel and courage fused together. Suddenly, the horizon erupted with fire. A Tiger tank, massive and menacing, advanced under cover of darkness. Whitty's heart pounded. He knew a head-on confrontation could destroy them all. Thinking quickly, he maneuvered the Sherman, hiding behind wreckage and hedgerows. "Jameson, aim for the tracks. Daniels, prep the next shell." The shot rang out, hitting the Tiger's tracks perfectly. The tank lurched and fell into a ditch, immobilized. Flames shot into the sky, casting long, eerie shadows over the battlefield. For a fleeting moment, silence fell over the bridge, broken only by distant gunfire and the groan of wrecked vehicles. Hours passed, and the Germans attempted a final desperate assault. Whitty's Sherman became a beacon of defiance, moving with uncanny precision, blasting advancing infantry and tanks alike. "We're holding them off! Keep firing!" he shouted. Smoke curled from the engine, but the Sherman refused to stop. Every member of the crew worked with unbreakable determination, passing shells, tracking targets, dodging fire. The bridge remained intact, a symbol of resilience, strategy, and courage. Whitty's mind raced, exhausted but sharp, aware that their actions had turned the tide in this crucial sector of Normandy. As dawn approached, the German forces, battered and demoralized, finally began to retreat. Whitty slumped in his seat, exhaustion and relief washing over him. "We did it," he whispered, almost to himself. Jameson lowered the gun, his hands trembling. Daniels wiped soot and sweat from his face, nodding silently. The Sherman, battered and scarred, had survived the night, holding the bridge against overwhelming odds. Whitty allowed himself a brief, grim smile. The crew had endured, fought, and won. Their small team had achieved something monumental, a singular act of heroism in the chaos of war. The battlefield was silent now, smoke drifting lazily over shattered fields. Whitty climbed out of the Sherman, surveying the damage. Enemy tanks lay disabled, infantry scattered, and the bridge stood firm, a vital link for Allied forces. Whitty's crew joined him, shoulders heavy with fatigue, but hearts swelling with pride. They had faced impossible odds, survived relentless attacks, and defended a critical point that would aid the Allied advance in Normandy. In that quiet moment, amidst the ruins of war, Whitty understood the weight of their actions. Small yet significant, heroic yet grounded in the harsh reality of combat. The story of Michael Whitty and his Sherman crew would echo through history as a testament to bravery, coordination, and sheer determination. Alone, their tank might have seemed insignificant, yet through strategy, courage, and teamwork, they held the line against superior forces. The battle for the bridge became a legend in Allied chronicles, known simply as Sherman Tank Heroics. Whitty's voice, the crew's movements, and the roar of their Sherman became a symbol, a reminder that even in the darkest, most desperate moments, human courage and skill can shape history. Morning light began to creep over the horizon, casting a pale glow on the battlefield. The remnants of the German assault lay scattered, tanks disabled, infantry retreating under the weight of failure. Whitty sat in the Sherman for a long moment, chest heaving, eyes scanning the wreckage. We made it," he muttered, voice barely audible over the of the engine. Around him, the crew leaned back, exhausted but alive, their faces smeared with soot, sweat, and the silent relief of survival. The bridge ahead, once a strategic prize for the enemy, stood intact, a silent monument to their courage and skill.
Jameson finally spoke, voice hoarse. "I thought we weren't going to make it there for a second." Whitty gave a short, tired laugh, running a hand through his dirt-streaked hair. "Neither did I," he admitted. Daniels rested his head against the metal hull, letting out a long sigh. They had been a small team against overwhelming odds, yet their coordination, quick thinking, and bravery had turned the tide of battle. Every decision, every maneuver, every precise shot had mattered. They had survived when survival seemed impossible. The bridge, now silent, seemed almost serene compared to the chaos of the night before. Whitty climbed out of the Sherman, stretching his legs and surveying the landscape. Craters pit-marked the landscape. Twisted metal and debris littered the road, yet through it all, the bridge remained firm. Allied reinforcements began to arrive, cautiously moving across the crossing. Soldiers whispered about the Sherman crew that had held the line through the night. Whitty's heart swelled with pride. Not arrogance, but the quiet satisfaction that they had done their duty when it mattered most.
"Think anyone will believe this story?" Jameson asked quietly, watching the distant figures of approaching reinforcements. Whitty shook his head with a small smile. "Probably not all of it," he said, glancing at the scars on the Sherman's hull. "But what matters is that we held the line. We did what we had to do." Daniels nodded, his gaze lingering on the horizon, imagining the men who had fallen, the tanks destroyed, the lives saved by their actions. The crew's bond had deepened in fire and smoke, forged in the crucible of war. As the morning sun rose higher, Whitty allowed himself a moment to reflect. The night had been long, brutal, terrifying, but it had ended with survival and victory. He knew the memory of the battle would stay with him forever, the roar of the Sherman's gun, the screams of engines, the acrid smoke curling around them, the weight of responsibility for every second, every shot. History might reduce it to a single line in the chronicles, Sherman Tank Heroics, but to Whitty and his crew, it was every heartbeat, every decision, every ounce of courage they had mustered to protect the bridge. Whitty's gaze lingered on the horizon, imagining the road ahead. Normandy was still a battlefield, full of danger and uncertainty, yet the bridge they had defended was now a lifeline for the Allied advance. He knew the war was far from over, but for that night, in that place, he and his crew had made a difference. The memory of fire, smoke, steel, and courage would remain with them, a testament to what ordinary men could achieve under extraordinary circumstances. The Sherman, battered but unbroken, stood as a monument to resilience. Its crew, young men thrust into chaos, had survived the impossible, holding the bridge against waves of enemy tanks and infantry. Their names might fade in the pages of history, but the legend of that night endured, a story of bravery, skill, and unyielding determination. Whitty knew that the courage of his crew, their unbreakable teamwork, and the relentless spirit of survival would echo far beyond the fields of Normandy. As reinforcements poured across the bridge, Whitty allowed himself one last look at the battlefield. The shattered tanks, the craters, the twisted metal, all reminders of the chaos they had endured, stood as silent witnesses to the night's heroics. He felt a deep, quiet pride in his crew. They had faced fear, fire, and overwhelming odds, and they had prevailed. That bridge, that moment, and that Sherman would forever remain a symbol of courage in the face of impossible odds, a story whispered in Allied chronicles as a testament to the indomitable spirit of men who refused to surrender, no matter the cost.